This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
And welcome in, folks, to another edition of Open Mic Night. I am your host, Noah Taluki, and on today's episode, Lions losing big yet again to the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas, 24-6. I want to break this game down, and also I have a theory as to what the Lions are up to based on what Sheila Hamp, owner of the Lions, had to say in her latest press conference earlier this week, and also the Paul Bunyan Trophy is alive and well, still in East Lansing, but could Michigan win it this year? I think they can, and I'll tell you why, and I'll give you a little bit of a preview of the game because we haven't really talked a lot of college football this year, and I want to make sure I give my 2 cents about Michigan and Michigan State from this season as well. But hopefully everybody has enjoyed their week out there, and I know I'm really trying my best to try to get you guys a podcast every week, but just with my work schedule and all, I feel like the last couple weeks I've been a little more comfortable with going every other week. We'll see how long it lasts or not, but I think right now, at least from what my schedule is and how things are working out, every other week is probably going to be the podcast format moving forward. But we'll see. I'm working on getting an interview for next week, so I don't know if that would air. I don't know if I'll do an episode next week or the week after. It'll all kind of depend on how my schedule is going because, here at John Carroll, we are ranking up a lot of sports and a lot of fall sports we have to take pride on or take coverage in alongside all of my busy work with class and all that as well. So, but I do enjoy this, and I still want to get my thoughts about the Lions out there because they're my favorite team, and I've loved doing this podcast for you guys for the last 2.5 years, and like I said, working on getting an interview for next week, because that's what I think makes this podcast in particular even better is if there's interviews, and I know you guys out there enjoy listening to what other people have to say as well. All right, but I want to talk about this 24-6 loss, and overall I was pretty disappointed. And you guys know me for listening to this podcast. If you guys listen to this podcast a lot, I am a very positive Lions fan, and I don't like to harp on them too much. But this was a game where I was a little bit upset. I was a little bit of an angry Lions fan on Sunday. And I don't get angry too much, but the reason I was angry was because of all the turnovers. Because I don't like losing games because it's our fault. If we take care of that football, we might have a better chance to win this game in Dallas because the defense played better. The defense, it was obvious that Aaron Glenn and crew made adjustments after the bye to get these guys back on track. Aiden Hutchinson trying a new position, if you will, still defensive end, but he's a little bit more in a 2-point stance now. We saw it a little bit more in the game against Dallas, and he stepped up. He had 1.5 sacks, and it was good to see him at least get some pressure on Dak. And I know the broadcast was really happy to see Aiden Hutchinson out there, Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. I didn't even know until the beginning of the game that they were doing that. I knew the game was on CBS and all that. I did not realize that Jim Nantz and Tony Romo were going to be doing this game. I think they're going to be on Thanksgiving as well because every other year it switches off from Fox and CBS. So I'm pretty sure the even years it's going to be Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. So we'll see them at Ford Field against Buffalo in about a month or so. But this game I just didn't. I was a little bit of an angry Lions fan because, like I said, the defense was playing well, especially that first half when the Lions were up 6-3. Hey, and finally, how about finally a kicker coming through for the Lions? Michael Bagley, 2 for 2 on field goals. Yay! Happy that finally the Lions were able to find some sort of kicker and not being forced to have to go for it on 4th down a lot like they did against the Patriots. But I just disappointed because of Goff's turnovers. 2 picks. I think there was that one interception I think he had to start the second half. And there's one thing I don't like. I hate it. It's like a pet peeve of mine in football. You come out of the second half or for the second half and you just turn it over on your first drive. That is a huge pet peeve of mine. You had all that time to rest, had all that time to put in adjustments, and you go out and turn it over. Now, I can understand a little bit more of maybe punting, 3 and out and all that on the first drive, but when you turn it over, no. Big pet peeve of mine. And Jared Goff did that. I was not happy about that at all. But I thought this was a game that the Lions could win. I mean, it wasn't like Dallas was just far and above more superior than the Lions. I mean, like I said, the defense actually held within it, but the offense has just put up big goose eggs the last 2 games. Patriots 0 points, and now this week 0 points because of the 2 field goals, of course. No offensive touchdowns. What happened to this offense? What happened to this potent attack? I'm wondering. And so this is where I start thinking about the future of Jared Goff. Jared Goff could go out and win second half MVP award, and he still would not be my quarterback of the future. I am over Goff, officially. When we had success offensively, it was not because of Goff. It was because of guys that Ben Johnson put in his situation to succeed. Running game opened up with, guess who? DeAndre Swift, who's missed the last couple games. But I believe he could be back for Miami this week. We'll see. Because Jamal Williams is not the same running back, and we know this, as DeAndre Swift. Also had Amon-Ra St. Brown, was able to get more guys open. TJ had a little bit more success early on. But now it seems like there's teams that are starting to figure out this offense. And I do know Goff. I mean, Goff was 21 of 26. That's respectable. But when you turn the ball over too much, that's what I don't like about Jared Goff. And I don't like how he fumbles, plays away, and especially too, because Goff had that really nice throw to Brock Wright. By the way, I like Brock Wright as a number 2 to TJ. I think Brock Wright's a weapon that can really sneak up on defenses, and he definitely snuck up on Dallas. 4 catches for 57 yards. But I think, and then the ball was down basically inside the 1. And I remember thinking to myself when I'm listening to Dan Miller and Lomas Brown, I said, just punch it in. Just punch it in. And guess what? Jamal Williams gets the ball and he fumbles. He fumbles on the first play after they get it inside the 1. And at that point, I'm like, is this really how this game's going to go? Fumble inside the 1 yard line after a great throw and catch from Goff to Brock Wright. This is the stuff that I just can't stand. I don't like when we turn these balls over. And that's why I was an angry Lions fan, because these are mistakes that the team could have avoided. This had nothing to do with the Dallas being more talented or us lacking talent. No, don't turn the ball over. You give us a chance to win. That's why I was upset. And Goff has been somewhat of a turnover machine this year. I'm not a fan of Jared Goff anymore. I was last year more. I thought he had a chance to become the leader of this team and really carry this offense, but that's not who he is. That's not who Jared Goff is. Jared Goff needs all the pieces perfect in order to succeed as a quarterback. They're not winning because of him. What's happening right now? St. Brown was out. DeAndre Swift's out. The offensive line's a little banged up. The pieces are not perfect. What's happening? Jared Goff is making mistakes. But when everything's right, the offense is clicking. That's why I don't want him moving forward, because in the NFL, every week the offense is not going to be perfect. You also don't have a coach like Sean McVay who's able to put you in the best situations every single game. This coaching staff is not like that. Jared Goff is not going to be the Lions quarterback moving forward, or at least I don't want him to be. I think what the Lions have to do, and at first I wasn't too big of a fan of some of these quarterbacks in the draft, like Bryce Young, 5'10", 186. I didn't realize he was that short. I'm not interested in him after that. There's Will Levis, who he's gotten better every year, but obviously there's still question marks with him. Then you get to guys like C.J. Stroud, and I was watching C.J. Stroud highlights the other day, and I gotta say, this guy's big. I didn't realize how big C.J. Stroud was, because I'm not, I don't watch as much college football, but I did want to watch his highlights a little bit, and I could tell he definitely is way more of a passer than a guy like Justin Fields was. And you see Justin Fields not really succeeding in Chicago, because my whole thing is, how come Ohio State quarterbacks have never succeeded in the NFL? That's always been my question. And it's like, okay, well, is CJ Stroud just the next Ohio State quarterback to not make it in the NFL? But, what is it that makes CJ Stroud different? And it seems like it's just basically his ability to pass. How he's able to make plays with his legs. That's another thing, too. He's able to escape the pocket, move out, and make plays. And that's really what today's quarterback is. Jared Goff is more of a drop-back passer. Everything's got to be perfect. Sort of like an old school quarterback, if you will. Whereas now you got to play on the fly more. You look at guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen. These guys are the elite quarterbacks of the league. They're always making plays with their feet. And I think CJ, well, and on top of that, of course, they have excellent arms and they can no-look passes and thread the needle and all this other stuff. But they at least have that ability to escape pass rushes and really adjust on the fly. It's becoming, the NFL is becoming more backyard football than it's been ever before. So really adjusting on the fly and whatnot. And the more and more I watch CJ Stroud, at least in these highlight videos, the more and more I think the Lions, especially if they finish dead last and get the number 1 overall pick, which it seems like at this rate they will, but who knows because it's the NFL and anything can happen every week. I can see the Lions at this point going with CJ Stroud. I can. And I think he's a guy that if you plug him in with these pieces that they already have, a healthy offensive line, hopefully healthy running back in DeAndre Swift and weapons in Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jameson Williams, who they just actually announced about him that he's going to be out for another month. No need to rush him, guys. No need to rush him. And I know fans are upset, but why rush Jameson Williams back from injury? Let him recover. I do want to see him a little bit of game action this year, though, because I want him to kind of get used to the NFL game before going into year 2 next year, which is basically his rookie year. Hopefully, will be his first full season. But you look at these weapons that they have around them, and possibly addressing more in free agency, then you got yourself a team. Now, I understand that there's probably going to be some growing pains if you take a guy like Stroud, because for any rookie quarterback, there's going to be some pains, which in reality could stretch the rebuild even longer. But if this CJ Stroud is going to really develop into one of these elite quarterbacks in the NFL, I will wait. I will be able to wait, and I will have as much patience as possible until this comes through. Which leads me to my next point about this theory that I have of what exactly is going on in Detroit with our Lions. And it all stems from Sheila Hamp's press conference that they had the other day. Now, gosh, when was the last time an owner spoke during the season for the Lions? It's been a while, I feel like. And at least Sheila was able to address, and anytime the owner of a team speaks, reporters flock to them like flies. So Sheila was talking about the rebuild, and she described it as a teardown, first of all, which in my opinion is very true. This is a teardown, not just a rebuild. They had to strip this whole thing from the bottom up. Obviously, you look at losing Matthew Stafford, trading him away, getting new management, general manager, head coach, all that. Teardown. I thought it was interesting, though, that she was talking about building the right way. And she stressed building through the draft. There's a lot of people, a lot of you fans out there that are wondering, why is it that teams like the Giants, the Jets, the Seahawks, these teams that are big surprises in the NFL that people didn't really expect to do much this year, why are they having success this year in turning things around in basically a year, whereas the Lions have to sit and wait? This is my theory behind all that. And like I said, it stems from Sheila's comments. So these teams took more emphasis on building in not only just the draft, but in free agency. That's what's key. What did the Lions do in free agency this year? Not much. Did they go out and get some big name? No. And it's probably because they didn't want to spend a lot of money. They want to be able to get guys for a little bit cheaper. They don't want to go out and waste, $80 million. Look, think about it. Think about free agency, what Bob Quinn and all them did to the Lions. You think about them going to get Trey Flowers for $90 million. You think about them going to get Vitae for $70, $80 million or whatever it was for a lineman. Vitae hasn't even played all year, and Dan Campbell said today here on a Friday that he's shut down for the season, basically because of his back injury. Trey Flowers, gone. These guys didn't do anything. And Vitae is probably the weakest link of anyone on the offensive line for the Lions. There's other guys, too, that wasted money. So why would Brad Holmes want to create the same mistakes? We're going to go get, who knows if these guys will pan out or not. That's probably why they didn't address big money free agents. Now, there are some guys that you can get, rotational pieces, key guys, especially on the defense, that's really where they need to put the free agents, is they got to emphasize putting the free agents on defense. But they didn't really, who did they go get? Chris Board. He's more of like a special teams backup linebacker, not really much of a game changer. These guys, I think the Jets, Seahawks, Giants, they took free agency more seriously this year than the Lions did. But how Sheila goes back to what she says about stressing to build through the draft, I think it makes it really obvious that this is the direction that the Lions and what Brad Holmes and company want the Lions to do moving forward. That is probably why she also stressed that this might take a little longer. And why, and I know there's a lot of impatient fans out there, I get it, but I think the reason why it's taking a little longer is because they're building through the draft. And building through the draft, when you stress that, there's going to be some growing pains. These guys aren't going to be fully developed in year one. That's why there's been growing pains with Aiden Hutchinson this year. Growing pains with Josh Pascal, who actually has made his way back into the lineup for Dallas after being hurt this whole entire year, and he actually made some plays. He made 2 tackles, but I did hear his name a couple other times as well, getting pressure. So, I think when you build through the draft, you have to expect some and really heavy emphasis on building through the draft. That's why you're going to have some growing pains, which is the reason why it could take longer. Now, if Brad Holmes goes out next year and takes free agency a little bit more seriously, on top of what he's done with the draft, then you could see some major improvements. But I'm not here to say Dan Campbell's going to be fired. Am I disappointed in the 1-5 start? Yes. Did I think they'd be better than 1-5 to start the season? Absolutely. But this is a team that you have to be a little bit patient with. It's a little different than some of these other teams. And you got to remember, too, the Giants are an excellent organization overall. They have management that knows how to do things the right way. And the other 2 teams stressing the free agency, knowing how to develop their players a little bit more. See, remember the other thing, too, about Brad Holmes is that he didn't come in. He's been in the league for 20 years, but he didn't come in with a lot of pro personnel experience. Brad Holmes' experience has been at the college scouting level. He was director of college scouting for the Rams. He did a lot with getting guys drafted. He didn't do much with going out and getting free agents, pro personnel. That's guys who are already proven players on the market. This is about guys at the college level. This is his strength. And I think, this is what my theory is, but I think that's what Brad Holmes sold to Sheila when they got the job. Because it wasn't as much necessarily building through the draft with Patricia, and it was a little bit, but Patricia and Quinn, I think they tried to get some of these free agents and pay them big money, and it didn't work. And I think Brad Holmes told Sheila, or at least some sort of idea, we don't want to do business like this. We're not going to go out and get guys for $80 million like they did for Trey Flowers. And that didn't work out. These guys don't pan out. Why waste all this money on guys that aren't going to work out? That's why I think next year they do. I'm not saying you cannot stress free agency at all, because I think there's definitely guys, especially on the defense, that they need to go target in free agency. I haven't looked at the list yet, but there's holes that you can still get at an affordable price. I'm not saying go out and get the biggest guy and pay him the most money. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, but at least stress, we need guys that can start, not just guys that are rotational pieces. Some of these free agents need to start, but it's all about the money thing too. Because Mike Valenti was talking about the other day. Did Brad Holmes? There's either 2 things. He didn't try to get free agents here, or he just wasn't a good enough salesman to get free agents here. Maybe Brad Holmes just needs to do a little bit better of a job with trying to get some of these free agent guys in here. Now, I get it. I like their idea with the draft, which is the reason why I think they will draft a quarterback coming up, especially if they're in the that top 3 range for draft picks. CJ Stroud, I think he could be the guy if the Lions are bad enough to get that position. Because, I mean, as we know, I think this season's kind of a wash by this point. But if they can, continue to develop guys, because this is all about the future. It's all about the future for this team. It's not about winning now. It's a process. And I understand. I understand why people are frustrated, because it's been 50, 60 years that people have been waiting. But every regime needs to be judged differently. That's always been my philosophy. And right now, we're just in year 2 with these guys. We don't know what it's going to be like moving forward. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be like in the next few years. We don't know who's going to leave, who's going to come in free agency, who's going to get hurt, who's going to be let go. We don't know any of that with these guys. It's too early to tell still. However, I do understand this is a results-oriented business. Dan Campbell's talking about how Sheila can have all the patience in the world, but eventually it's going to reach a breaking point because they've been losing. And teams these days aren't very patient with losing teams anymore, losing coaches. Like this is like Jim Schwartz when he started out with the Lions all over again. He started out 2-14 in 2009. They went to 6-10 in 2010. But then year 3 they made the playoffs. Maybe it's something like that. Different players, but they at least had a elite level quarterback in Matthew Stafford. The quarterback situation is key, though. And I said this right when Brad Holmes and all them were hired, once Jared Goff became the Lions quarterback. What's going to define their legacy with the Lions and their tenure here is what happens at the quarterback position. Are they going to keep Jared Goff? Are they going to go with a veteran? Or are they going to draft a quarterback? And, I mean, honestly, I think at this point, especially if you finish really, really bad, because right now the Lions would get the number 1 overall pick. I think you have to go with Stroud. I think he's the best option. Now, unless Will Levis is, like I said, another guy I'm curious about, but I don't like doing this, guys. I don't like when the season is pretty much over by Halloween. I don't like that. I just felt like I had to address the future a little bit, though, and at least talk a little bit about what I think this vision is for this team moving forward. All right, so that's all with Lions. I want to talk quickly about Michigan and Michigan State because I like this game every year. And now, you guys probably wonder, what am I, Michigan State fan? I am neutral. I'm telling you guys that up front. I cheer for my state of Michigan. I'm not siding with Michigan or Michigan State in this one. I just want to see a good football game. And if Michigan State upsets Michigan, great. I'll love it. I won't be mad. It's a rivalry game. It's supposed to be fun. You love upsets in rivalry games. Do I think Michigan State's going to win this year? No. I think Michigan takes care of business. I think Michigan, the one thing that's impressed me about Michigan this year is that they seem to be on this, and because sometimes you say, oh, well, the Big Ten hangover, and after the playoff, and losing Aiden Hutchinson among other key players, but this team might be even better this year than they were last year. It's interesting to say. They are on a tour of revenge that they want to defend their Big Ten crown, and they want to still beat Ohio State. No excuses. And being able to take care of some of these teams like Penn State, blow them out at home, and somebody like Indiana on the road, tough game, tough atmosphere. Any road game in the Big Ten, taking care of business. This Michigan team has been taking care of business all year round, and that's been really good to see. I think the quarterback play has improved. I know it was tough at the beginning of the season when Cade McNamara was basically benched for J.J. McCarthy, and Cade McNamara was the guy that led Michigan to the college football playoff last year. But J.J. McCarthy gives them a little bit more of a three-dimensional offense, I should say, running and throwing the football, running style quarterback as well with a decent arm. And, of course, Blake Corum, who's having an excellent year. I mean, he'll probably be in the top 10 for the Heisman voting. This Michigan team, I'm telling you, They look like they are hungry for another Big Ten championship. And I know and they've made it really clear, too, that this is not going to be like some easy cakewalk game. Like they made it very clear, we want Paul Bunyan back. So don't expect Michigan to think, oh, well, we're just going to take care of Michigan State. Guys, this is going to be a good game. Michigan State wants to keep the Paul Bunyan trophy. They want to prove, and because they've been having a tough year with Mel Tucker, they want to prove that they can still beat their in-state rival. This game still matters to them, that they can still compete at that level. I think Michigan pulls it out in the end, but expect this to be like a 28-24 kind of game. One of those close matchups. It's going to be real exciting. Plus, it's at night. Sean McDonough is going to be on the call. Whoa, he has trouble with the snap as his voice cracks. Same announcer there, and I think it'll be good. It'll be a good game, and I fully expect Michigan to be undefeated by the time they play Ohio State. This is going to be the game of the last 10 years. I don't want to say game of the century because that 2006 game was labeled the game of the century, but at least in the last 10 years or so, probably even bigger than last year's game because both teams I expect to be undefeated. This basically will be the Big Ten championship game because whoever wins this game will probably defeat whoever the heck the West wants to throw out there. So it's going to be a huge game in Columbus, but Michigan has to take care of Michigan State first. But like I said, and the other thing, too, I think that will make this game, that Ohio State game, so special is because Ohio State they want revenge. They're on a revenge tour all year. I think if Ohio State beats Michigan, I think Ohio State wins the national championship. I do. So it's going to be real interesting because, Alabama seems to be a little bit down. Georgia, not as good as last year. Then you got Tennessee, who, amazing win over Alabama, but I don't think this team's winning the SEC. So I think the playoffs are a little open this year, and whoever wins that game who knows, might even win the national championship. If Michigan wins, we could be seeing a party in Ann Arbor for the first time since 1997. Think about that. We could. You never know. I like to dream about these things sometimes. I think it's really cool. But I'm looking forward to that Michigan-Ohio State game. But like I said, Michigan's got to take care of its in-state rival first. Get that Paul Bunyan trophy before the game in late November. That's for sure. Make sure to follow all the other great content on the podcast network, Doc and Jock, the wrestling podcast, and the fan report with Pistons basketball starting up, and the Red Wings. How about the Red Wings getting off to a good start in their season as well? And make sure to check out all of John Macron's fantastic coverage on Sports Illustrated for the Detroit Lions, going to every single home game and enjoying his coverage of our hometown Detroit Lions. Thanks again, folks, for tuning in, and make sure to join us next time only on Open Mic Night.